उसमें से check कर लो उसमें से. On behalf of NDC-TIA, we welcome you to the launch of the India component of the NDC-TIA project. As many of you are already aware, and many of you who are joining this on YouTube might not be aware of this, but the NDC-TIA program is being implemented by NITI Aayog in collaboration with the German Federal Ministry for Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety, that is the BMU, under its International Climate Initiative. There's a consortium of partners which will be working to facilitate the stakeholder process, and develop these selected climate action, which will better help us in achieving on being on the right path to achieve our nationally determined contributions. The aim of the NDC-TIA project in India is to promote a comprehensive approach to decarbonizing the transport sector through coherent policies and strategies which are coordinated amongst various ministries, civil society organizations, and the private sector. Talking about ministries, today we also have representatives from the Department of Heavy Industries in India, which is the DHI, as well as the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, who are joining us. So from DHI, it's Mr. Amit Vardhan who's joining us, and from MORT, it is Mr. Priyank Bharti. We are also very happy that, throughout this process, we've been working with a wide range of stakeholders. Our consortium partners for NDC-TIA actually include WRI, ICCT, International Transport Forum. We have got REN21, we've got GIZ, and of course Agora as well. Many of you were also there in June when we launched the ITF-DTE project, and we had the Secretary General of the International Transport Forum, Dr. Yang Tae Kim, who basically launched the ITF-DTE project jointly with Mr. Amitabh Kant. And what we are really happy about is that there are a lot of synergies between both of these projects. ITF-DTE and NDC-TIA actually complement each other. And we are actually very happy to let all of you know that the annual planning exercise, which is very important because that defines the course of action over the next 12 months. What is it that all of us together are going to do? What is it that all of us together are going to achieve? That has already been completed. So with all of our partners over the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've been working, to ensure that the annual planning exercise is complete. And of course, we are very, very happy that Director General, Dr. Carsten Sack, who's the Director General of the International and European Policy, as well as the Climate Policy of the German Ministry of Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety, will be joining us. Mr. Amitabh Kant will, of course, be joining us just shortly. He's in another meeting. He'll just be coming out of that meeting very shortly. And of course, Secretary General Dr. Yang Tae Kim. And without any further ado, I would like to invite Ms. Corina Kuzel, who's the Director of the South Asia Division of GIZ, to deliver her opening remarks. Ms. Kuzel, if you please.
Yes, thank you very much. Hello, good afternoon to everybody. I would like to greet specifically Mr. Amitabh Kant, the CEO of NITI Aayog, Your Excellency, Mr. Stefan Grape, Deputy German Ambassador in New Delhi, Dr. Carsten Sach, Director General BMU, and Dr. Yang Tae Kim, Secretary General of the International Transport Forum, and of course all officials from the governments of India and Germany, ladies and gentlemen. It is really a big pleasure for me to address this August gathering on the occasion of the kickoff event for the NDC Transport Initiative for Asia, the India component. As GSF, we are very happy and actually proud to support this initiative on behalf of the German Federal Ministry of the Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety, the BMU, under IKI funding. And we are particularly pleased to implement this project as part of a consortium of experienced organizations, specifically ICCT, WRI, ITF, Agora, SLOCAT, and REN21. And of course, we are very happy to work together with very committed government and private sector partners in India and equally in Vietnam and China. Overall, the initiative aims at promoting a comprehensive approach on decarbonizing transport systems through coherent policies and strategies, coordinated among ministries, civil society organizations, and the private sector. In this endeavor, the India component builds on the commitment and the numerous initiatives by the government of India to promote a climate-friendly transition in the energy and transport sector. And it relies specifically on the commitment and the expertise of NITI Aayog, India's premier policy think tank, as the implementing partner of the India component of the project. In India, the initiative will give a particular focus to electric mobility, which will require coupling of transport and energy sectors, and will build on cross-sectoral expertise from ministries, think tank, public and private organizations. Ultimately, the project intends to support the development of policies and regulations to promote electric vehicle charging infrastructure and a smooth, wide-scale adoption of electric vehicles in India, and thus also supports the National Electric Mobility Mission Plan of India. All in all, we are launching today a very important and very ambitious project with very high ambitions in building the contribution of the transport sectors to India's NDC targets. So please let me thank the BMU for entrusting the implementation of this important project to GIZ and the 6 other consortium partners. Thanks very much to NITI, to Indian ministries and other partners for the great commitment with the program. And thanks to our consortium partners for excellent cooperation in the preparation of the program concept. I look forward to a very successful implementation of the program and of course now to a very interesting exchange on future approach and a very successful launch. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention, and please stay safe and healthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kuzel, for your opening remarks. I would now like to invite Mr. Stefan Graber. He is the Deputy Ambassador of the German Embassy. So I now invite you to say a few words.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm very honored to be part of this kickoff event with so many high-ranking representatives from different ministries and organizations. It's great to see Director General from the Federal Ministry, Mr. Sach, here. And thank you very much also to NITI Aayog, Amitabh Kant, for your participation and for your ideas and impulses on this meeting and on the further project. I think we are still in the midst of unfortunate COVID crisis, but at the same time, we have to find ways to prevent climate change, to mitigate global warming. To fight COVID, we hope to find sooner to find a vaccine, but against global warming, there is and there will be no vaccine. But we have, however, the best medicine already in our hands. And the best medicine is we have to act together. And we do act together. And the appropriate framework for this acting together is the Paris Climate Agreement and its NDC policy. That gives us the global framework to plan, to act, and to monitor our mitigation efforts on the CO2. India has a strong NDC record. You're excellent performers. In Germany, we feel the repercussions of global warming. The summers are getting hotter, there's less rain, and so does India, an incredible country crowned by the Himalayas and washed around by the Indian Ocean. Probably India even more is exposed to climate change than Germany is. So we are acting together, and that's real proof, this project here and what are you doing together. And not only when it comes to energy production, like solar energy, for example, where India has taken a lead in the International Solar Alliance, and Germany wants to be part of this very soon as well. But in particular, when it comes to mobility, to new and alternative forms of mobility, and in particular, urban mobility, this is a field of utmost importance for Germany, for our cooperation with India. In my view, as far as mobility is concerned, we need two things. First, we need technological smart developments. We have to be innovative as far as sustainable new fuels are concerned, We have to try to find mechanisms to reduce emissions, and we have to explore smarter mobility. But there's a second point, I think that's also very important, and that is adjustment of our mindset, of our behavior as far as mobility is concerned. What distance are we going every day? Do we need really a car that goes for 500 kilometers for our everyday drive to work? Is car sharing an option? How can we find better infrastructure in our cities? And how can we move faster to different points of our countries? So there are two things that are very important. That's technological improvement, and at the same time to think about our behavior, about our way to move, about our urban mobility. And I think in this NDC project, I think you're going to tackle and you're going to talk about these issues very profoundly, and I think this is a good example for future better cooperation between Germany and India. We are moving forward, we are shaping our future when we join forces. That's what we are doing right now. And I can only assure you that the embassy here, you have our full support, and we're going to follow this project in the future, and I wish you all the success that you will have, certainly. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Graber, for letting us know that we all have your full support going forward. It's very nice to hear that. And before we move forward, I would like to request Dr. Carsten Sack, who is the Director General of the International and European Climate Policy at the BMU. If he could perhaps speak just before Mr. Amitabh Kant does, because Mr. Kant is just held up in a meeting. It'll just take him another 2 minutes to be here. But if Dr. Sack would perhaps like to deliver his keynote address first, that would be great for all of us on this call.
Thank you. More than happy, dear co-speakers, ladies and gentlemen, friends. It's a great pleasure to be part of this virtual launch of the regional ICI project in Asia in decarbonizing transport. Our Deputy Ambassador, Mr. Graber, and others have said already, we are facing a big challenge, COVID-19 at this point in time. But the big climate change is progressing while we are grappling with other challenges. And we see that in natural disasters, which are pestering our planet, and we have seen floods in India, in Assam, cyclones in Kolkata this year, and we see record-breaking, increasing greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere and temperatures. So what we have to do is, at the same time, we need to fight the pandemic, and we need to build better resilience within our societies. People fear that their own health, as well as that of their families, friends, are deprived of their economic livelihood by the effects of the different crises. Therefore, we need to build back better and integrate our solutions. And so we will be taking lots of investments in all our countries, speed up investments due to the crisis, and if we don't put it together, the answer to climate change and to the pandemic, we are lost. Therefore, the next 6 to 18 months are absolutely crucial. It is, and that is, we have a long-standing, excellent cooperation with India on all issues of climate change and energy, on transport, and therefore, we are very happy that we are promoting that project here and launching it today. Coming back to Corona, as an immediate response, we, the BMU in my department, we have put forward an additional package of 68 million euros via the International Climate Initiative to tackle the immediate challenges of the pandemic. in protecting nature reserves, biodiversity hotspots, and indigenous peoples, financing green economic recovery measures, increasing long-term funding to protect biodiversity hotspots and forests, and to prevent comparable pandemics. India was a key partner on the ICI since its very inception in 2008, and I remember that very well. And the transport sector is one of the big challenges when we want to become climate neutral in order to fulfill the promises we gave in the Paris Agreement. At the moment, we have 16 ongoing projects with a total funding volume of around 93.4 million euros in the transport sectors, and 2 further projects with a total funding of 35 million euros up. In emerging economies like India, an explosive economic growth and urbanization have led to an increase in transport demand and intensification of motorization, and that has led to an increase of greenhouse gas emissions. And that means that we now have the challenge to provide transport, but to provide at the same time better livelihoods and find solutions to decarbonizing the transport as well. There are many co-benefits if we drive forward such policies, including better air quality in cities. As the biggest growth is just happening in Asia and Southeast Asia, therefore a transport initiative in Asia is particularly important. Together with you and the other partner countries, we would like to promote a comprehensive approach on decarbonizing transport. That means developing a coherent strategy of effective policies that are coordinated amongst various sector ministries, civil societies, and the private sector. At the global level, the project disseminate knowledge and share experiences in the UNFCCC process. Particularly in India, we want to support a stakeholder platform at the national level, including public stakeholders, private sector, and civil society, intended to identify decarbonization pathways in the transport sector. I am very pleased to express that with this project, we are building on our excellent cooperation to date with our partner, India, and are looking forward to jointly develop measures to achieve our common climate protection goals in the transport sector. I would like to share this opportunity, take that opportunity to thank our Indian partners, especially NDC-TIA and the organizations involved, without which this important project would not have been possible. I believe that to address the current global situation, it is crucial to show solidarity and to support our partners as effectively as possible. I'm very much looking forward to our cooperation, and I'm even more looking forward to having an opportunity to visit your beautiful country soon again. I've been there with the minister last year. This year, due to the pandemic, that was impossible. So let's do our best virtually, as long as we are forced to do that, but hopefully in direct contact very soon. Thank you very much, and good success with the process, the project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Sack, for all those who are joining us on YouTube, who are streaming us live. Dr. Carsten Sack is the Director General of the International and European as well as Climate Policy at the Ministry of Environment, Nuclear Safety and Nature Conservation of the which is the BMU. We now have Mr. Amitabh Kant, who is the CEO of NITI Aayog, who will be delivering the keynote address. Sir.
Dr. Carsten Sack, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm truly delighted to be joining you all today at this very, very unique launch of the NDC-TIA project. It was only in June that I was here to join you all for the launch of the Decarbonizing Transport Initiative of the International Transport Forum. I'm very happy that both these projects actually complement each other and their work streams are totally integrated. Together, the potential that they have to transform the world is immense and massive. I'm glad to know that the Indian component of the NDC-TIA project is being launched today. Ladies and gentlemen, in India, we are at the beginning of our urbanization process. In the next 5 decades, we'll have over 700 million people getting into the process of urbanization. Our challenge is that if India develops on the same path as the Western world, the world will need 4 worlds to grow and prosper. But alas, we have only one world, and therefore you need to do sustainable development. And cities in India are at the stage of massive development with a growing economy, regional linkages, and a dense and vibrant environment. They have a unique opportunity to leapfrog towards decarbonizing the transport system. The NDC-TIA project would enable an integrated decision-making, bringing in multiple agencies and stakeholders on a common platform. In India, we have only 20 cars per 1,000 people as compared to 980 cars per 1,000 people in USA and over 800 cars per 1,000 people in Europe. And therefore, it's important that India's urbanization process should be designed not for cars but for the people of India so that they have a better life and a better livelihood. And I believe that the future of the world belongs to the sharing, connected, and a zero-emission world. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, if we can solve the transportation issue for India, we can hold a unique model for the rest of the world. And if you can solve the transportation challenge for India, we can solve for the world. Lessons learned from the Indian component of this project will contribute to the regional and global component through knowledge dissemination and peer learning. APEC and other Southeast Asian countries would look at India as a model for sustainable mobility. Today, one of the biggest advantages that we have is the availability of massive amounts of data. In India, we have over 1 billion mobile phones, over 550 million smartphones. The cost of data is the cheapest in the world, 1/20th the cost of 1 GB data as compared to the United States and 1/10 the cost of 1 GB of data as compared to the United Kingdom. Therefore, India has become data rich before it has become rich. It is a country with massive amounts of data. And advanced analytical modeling and assessment frameworks will enable us to identify the climate actions and policies that are deeply rooted in data analysis and modeling. These projects combined would help us in designing policies which are firmly grounded on data and are likely to be highly efficient and impactful across the entire transport ecosystem in India. I'm absolutely certain that the close integration of the DTEE and NDC-TIA project work streams would enable a comprehensive strategy ensuring a very clear path to sustainable mobility in India. Our country has a huge transport sector which caters to the needs of over 1 billion people. In fact, India is the largest manufacturer of two-wheelers and the 4th largest car manufacturer in the world. Indian auto manufacturers produced a record 30.92 million motor vehicles in 2019, including 4.03 million passenger vehicles. As city populations swell, so will the number of vehicles and the corresponding levels of pollution and congestion. India's urban population will grow rapidly by 2050, and India will require another 500 cities or 1 million population each, and therefore it's important that new urbanizations is done on the back of sustainable transportation. And this assumes greater significance in the context of the prevailing COVID-19 situation, which is likely to shift people away from public transport towards personal vehicles due to health concerns. The need for private vehicles will increase given the new normal, especially with the current social distancing norms. This presents a huge challenge as well as an opportunity. The challenge will be to rein in the corresponding increase in emissions and congestion, but then there's a massive opportunity to push for sustainable, clean, connected, cutting-edge and shared mobility solutions. And these shall define the future of mobility in India. Because the vehicle fleet is small relative to its large population, India has very low per capita transportation emissions. But this fleet is growing rapidly and may double by 2030, although this may have been impacted somewhat by the COVID crisis. But regardless, this presents a challenge in terms of emissions. Through projects such as NDC-TIA and ITF-DTE, we can develop a pathway towards developing cleaner mobility solutions. NITI Aayog will work in partnership with all departments. We have been at the forefront of driving sustainable mobility in India. We have the National Mission on Transformative Mobility, which is housed in NITI Aayog. This mission recommends and drives strategies for transformative mobility and phased manufacturing program for EVs, EV components and batteries. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a phased manufacturing program to localize production across the entire EV value chain. We have a FAME2 scheme which provides and incentivizes buses, three-wheelers, on an OPEX basis, all commercial vehicles. We focus on shared mobility as buses and three-wheelers, which are a popular means of public transportation, and take 70% of demand incentives. Ladies and gentlemen, we have taken a number of proactive steps to promote electric mobility in the country. There's a differential tax regime. The EV vehicles are just charged 5% GST, which creates, whereas other vehicles are charged 23%. We've taken several measures, including to incentivize the adoption of EVs for commercial purposes. The capital city, from where I'm joining you all today, will deploy 1,000 electric buses, 200 EV charging stations soon. We've taken several measures to insure vehicles without a battery and use the battery for rent. Battery swapping mechanism through controlled environment will substantially increase life of the battery. In a recent report, Morgan Stanley stated that India would be a primary driver of e-mobility, where 30% EV penetration would happen by 2030, and India would have 35% shared miles by 2030. We have, ladies and gentlemen, through this project, I'm certain that we would strengthen our transport and greenhouse gas modeling capabilities in India and create a multi-stakeholder dialogue and pathways for decarbonizing transport at a national level. We need a very, very holistic approach to decarbonize the transport sector and particularly ensure last mile access and unlocking new mobility aspirations of the citizens. Sustainability in the transport sector has the potential to improve the lives and livelihoods of billions of people, their health, their environment, and their quality of life. But we need to design and model our mobility policies in such a way that it focuses on not just efficiency and sustainability, but also incorporates the principles of safety, inclusivity, affordability, and accessibility. Ladies and gentlemen, the NDC-TIA project assumes a great significance given the scale and complexity of solving for over 1.3 billion people. To undertake a project of this magnitude in India would be extremely challenging, but I'm sure with the support of all stakeholders, we'll be able to meet the challenges and empower people with affordable, accessible, and sustainable mobility solutions. I look forward to a continued and proactive engagement with our partners and guarantee full support of NITI Aayog as we move forward. I wish all the teams and stakeholders all the best. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a real pleasure and a delight speaking to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to Mr. Amitabh Kant, who's the CEO of NITI Aayog. He's been very, very supportive when it comes to sustainable mobility solutions in India, and he's encouraged us to take more such initiatives and work together with different agencies on many more such projects with the ultimate aim of promoting a shared, connected, and clean mobility ecosystem. Thank you so much, sir, for your keynote address. And without further ado, I would now like to invite Dr. Young Tae Kim, who is the Secretary General of the International Transport Forum, to kindly deliver his special address.
Good morning and good afternoon for being here with us today. And first of all, I would like to thank Ms. Kuzel, Ms. Grabher, Mr. Kant, and Ms. Sa for the kind words and their support and collaboration on this project. We are very glad that despite the current circumstances due to the COVID-19, GIZ and NITI Aayog, along with all the consortium partners, have worked proactively to make this event possible today. The NDC Transport Initiative for Asia project is very special for the ITF. It aligns strongly with our Decarbonizing Transport Initiative, which aims at promoting carbon neutral mobility to help stop climate change. India has been an ITF member since 2009. We recently also launched the DTEE project and are very pleased to be working with NITI Aayog again to take forward our mutual agenda. The occasion of our meeting is the launch of the NDC Transport Initiative Asia project. I will let my colleague Pier Paolo Cazzola provide you with more details on the ITF's role in this project, as well as an overview of other ITF work related to this topic. But before that, for those who do not know ITF yet, I would like to introduce a little bit more about ITF, our activities, and our objectives. As some of you might know, ITF was born in 2006 by the European Ministers of Transport with a great ambition to create a global forum and platform for transport sector. So ITF is a young intergovernmental organization with currently 62 member countries. Among other things, I would like to emphasize that the ITF is the only global body mandated to all modes of transport in the world. And ITF is a think tank that provides knowledge, insight, and information to the policymakers, especially by publishing more than 60 papers every year and organizing various roundtables and working group meetings. Today's 5 main foci of the ITF research activities are digitalization, connectivity, decarbonization, safety and security, and universal access, including gender issues. All the publications of ITF can freely downloadable from our website. Finally, ITF organizes annual summit, which is the largest gathering of the transport leaders in the world. More than 1,200 people from around 70 countries, including more than 40 ministers and vice ministers, and many CEOs of global companies participate in this summit. From the beginning, it has taken place in May in Leipzig, Germany, but unfortunately, it was not possible to hold the summit this year because of the COVID-19 crisis. Our next summit will be organized from 26th to 28th in May 2021 in Leipzig again in Germany with the theme of innovation. So stay tuned. And I'm very proud to tell you that the ITF is contributing a lot to the global transport community. However, the cooperation with our member countries and international partners is crucial and indispensable. Our partners like NDC-TIA and GIZ are invaluable in the sense that ITF can also learn a lot and stay dynamic and open-minded. I'm certain that today's project will be an excellent opportunity to create synergies between the work of ITF, GIZ,
Dr. Kim, there might be some issues from your end. We are not able to hear you. Yeah, we seem to have lost Dr. Kim. But thank you so much, and we would surely continue your address once your connection gets back. I would now like to also take this opportunity to introduce Mr. S.K. Saha. He heads the transport vertical at NDC-TIA, and he would be present for the technical session in giving an opening address. Without further ado, I would also now like to move on to the remarks by the representatives of key Indian ministries. We have Mr. Priyank Bharti joining us from Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. I would now like to ask him to make his address. Yeah, Mr. Kim, can you hear us? Okay.
So there was a technical problem, right?
Yes, Dr. Kim, we seem to have lost the connection, but yeah, is your connection fine now?
No, it's okay.
Great. Please continue then.
Okay. Actually, I don't know whether it was disconnected, but I will focus on the later part of my speech. And I was talking about the annual summit, and which was usually organized in Leipzig. And the summit is the largest gathering of the transport leaders in the world, and more than 1,200 people from around 70 countries, including more than 40 ministers and vice ministers and many CEOs of the global companies participate in this summit. And from the beginning, it has taken place in May in Leipzig. But unfortunately, it was not possible to hold the summit due to the COVID-19 crisis this year. And our next summit will be organized from 26th to 28th in May 2021 in Leipzig again in Germany with a theme of innovation. And I'm very proud to tell you that ITF is contributing a lot to the global transport community. However, the cooperation with our member countries and international partners is really important and indispensable. So our partners like NDC-TIA and GIZ are invaluable in the sense that ITF can also learn a lot and stay dynamic and open-minded. And I'm certain that today's project will be an excellent opportunity to create synergies between the work of ITF, GIZ, all the project partners, and NDC-TIA, resulting in mutual benefit for all organizations. My team is looking forward to embarking on this journey with you, and I'm very pleased to be able to attend today's meeting, and it's a great opportunity for me to learn more about the transport sector in India and to establish close ties with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kim. Yes, moving on, I would now like to invite Mr. Priyank Bharti. He is a representative from the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. I will now request you to say a few words. Um, I would now request Mr. Amit Vardhan to say a few words. He's from Department of Heavy Industries. So,
Respected CEO NDC-TIA, Director General BNU, Secretary General ITA, Director IZ, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure and privilege that I'm here on this forum. We are very happy to be part of the NDC-TIA initiative. We are very committed towards decarbonizing transportation. And in fact, some of you may be aware that the department is the nodal agency for implementing the electric vehicle mobility project, which is known as FAME. It's an acronym for Faster Adoption and Manufacturing of Electric Vehicles. It was started in the year 2015 and was visualized for 2 years. But due to the success, it was extended up to March 2019. And then based on the experiences of that scheme, its successor scheme, known as FAME 2, was launched on the 1st of April 2019. This is a 3-year project. Basic idea in these two programs has been to incentivize adoption of electric vehicles of all kinds. That is right from 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers, e-buses, as well as charging infrastructure throughout the country. What we are doing is basically, since the cost of acquisition of these vehicles is relatively higher, then we are trying to fill up a bit of the gap by providing cash subsidy. And the same kind of subsidy is being given to the establishment of charging stations as well. I'm very happy to tell you that during FAME 1, we supported about 2.8 lakh electric vehicles at a cost of about 364 crores. And it is estimated that this saved about 70 million liters of fuel and abated 170 million kgs of carbon dioxide. This was a very good initiative to start with. Based on these learnings, we have launched FAME 2. Here again, we are providing incentives, but this time it is based on the battery capacity of vehicles. So we have fixed 10,000 rupees of subsidy per kilowatt hour for all vehicles except for buses for which it is 20,000. So there are different slabs of incentives which we are providing. This is expected to initiate a lot of progress in this regard. Following up on that, we sanctioned 5,595 e-buses and 2,636 charging stations. So work is in progress in that direction. These vehicles that have been earmarked, they are basically public transport vehicles or those registered for commercial purposes, 3-wheeler, 4-wheeler and e-bus segments. However, in the 2-wheeler segment, we also have privately owned and registered vehicles. Now, in a visionary step, the ministry at that time decided that vehicles fitted with only advanced batteries will be eligible for this subsidy. That is lithium ion, phosphate, lithium polymer, etc. So, and this was based on the OPEX model, the operational expenditure model. Now, there is a minimum localization content which is prescribed, which is 40% for e-buses and 4-wheelers and 50% for 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers. So we are moving ahead. We are learning from our experiences and we are trying to gain from our experiences of the past, putting this program on a firm foundation. However, although we have done quite a lot, but I would say that we are still at a very nascent stage in this area. And a lot remains to be done because the adoption of EVs it's a work in progress. And being on this forum would bring us in touch with whatever is happening globally. There will be a lot of learnings, and we would like to share our experiences and learn from the experiences of the developed countries who have done much more in this segment. There are areas of interoperability of chargers, areas of battery swapping, etc. Very new, exciting areas coming up. And we are also involved in a study with GIZ. I have had occasion to interact with them, and that's an ongoing endeavor. So we are very happy to be on this forum, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Amit Vardhan. He is the Joint Secretary of Department of Heavy Industries, Government of India. And thank you, sir, for your remarks. And I think we really look forward to working with the Department of Heavy Industries moving forward. Mr. Prang Bharti, we see you are here in the call. Could you hear us?
Hi, good evening. Am I audible?
Yes. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening to you all. In fact, it's my pleasure to be present here. Very honorable Mr. Amitabh Kant, the CEO NITI Aayog, Ms. Corina Hussail, the Director Division South Asia GIZ, Mr. Stephen Graber, Deputy Ambassador German Embassy, and all the dignitaries and officers who are present on the VC. In fact, Mort is very keen to participate, and we from the ministry like to highlight that we'll support the program and will provide full cooperation. I hope the association and the program are good success, and we hope in times to come we'll be able to do good justice and work for the achievement of the goals which are enshrined. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prang Bharti. Mr. Prang Bharti is the Joint Secretary of Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Government of India. Now, moving on to the technical session, I would now like to request Mr. S.K. Saha. He's the Head of Transport Vertical at NITI Aayog, Government of India, and I would now request him to make his opening address.
Dr. Kim and all other distinguished guests. It is an honor for me to start the technical session, and I would like to outline certain important features that we are currently doing, and that would lay the path of action that is required. So it's a great opportunity for all of us to come together for the launch of this NDC-TIA project in India. At the outset, I would like to thank the German Federal Ministry for Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety officials and officials from my contemporary Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Urban Affairs, Department of Heavy Industries, and other partner organizations for supporting this project. As you all know, India's transport sector has the fourth largest rail network in the world and the third largest global aviation market. Therefore, it presents a huge opportunity, but challenges in terms of emissions. The transport sector of India is the third most greenhouse emitting sector, where major contribution comes from the road transport sector. Transport emission is a key contributor to emissions in India, with 231 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent as an emission. Growing urbanization, coupled with increased demand for mobility and personal motorization, remains one of the key challenges. The increasing motorization and the demand for mobility in India have contributed to air pollution, congestion, as well as the increase of greenhouse emissions in the urban area. India's urban population is expected to grow to 814 million by 2050. Global transport emits around 23% of the energy, carbon dioxide, that feeds global warming. Without immediate action, its share could reach to 40% by 2030. Transport emissions have grown faster than those of any other sector over the past 30 years. demand for transport will continue to grow massively in the coming decade. India presents a massive opportunity in overcoming the challenges presented by rapid urbanization and as the economic growth propels the demand for energy. In fact, if you look at the Climate Action Tracker, which tracks the emission commitments and actions of all countries, you will find that India is the only major country in the world where actions to combat emissions are compatible with the goal of limiting global warming to an average of 2 degrees Celsius. India has emerged as a global leader in renewable energy, adoption of national electricity plan, and steps taken towards promotion of electric vehicles, and the FAME 2 policies have contributed to India's achieving this 2 degrees centigrade compatible rated Paris Agreement climate action targets. NDC-TIA project in India would further help in our fight against climate change. The project aims at promoting a comprehensive approach on decarbonizing transport systems through coherent policies and strategies coordinated among ministries, civil society organizations, and the private sector. Indian Railways have already started working on the ambition to achieve 100% electrification of the railway network through renewable energy. It will be the world's first and the largest railway network to become a net zero carbon emitter by 2030. This assumes significance given that with a requirement of 12 billion units of electricity every year, Indian Railways power consumption has been growing at an average of 5% every year. I am happy that the work for annual planning exercise was expedited and finalized on Monday, and we have worked with our partners to agree upon a joint understanding of the planned activities for the upcoming 12 months. Moving forward, we would now need to work towards implementation of the work stream. I would request the lead and supporting partners to commence the work immediately. Over the course of this project, I am certain that we will put together a comprehensive strategy that will enable India in working on reducing their emissions from the transport sector and meet its NDC. We have a dedicated team at NITI which will be looking at this project and which will be coordinating with the sister ministries to ensure that there are no bottlenecks in the entire project. NITI Aayog would fully support the project as we move forward. I wish all the teams and stakeholders who are collaborating for this mammoth exercise the very best.
Thank you very much to Mr. S.K. Saha for delivering his opening address for the technical session. Mr. Saha has been very supportive of all of these projects, and he's already the head of the project appraisal as well as the PPP verticals here, along with the high-speed rail. And he also heads the transport vertical, so there's already a lot of synergy between these large infrastructure verticals at NITI. So his support and encouragement has been of constant help in taking this forward. And now we would like to move on, and Madhav, if you would.
For the next opening address, I would now like to request Dr. O.P. Agarwal. He is the CEO of World Resources Institute in India. So I would now request you to make the opening address.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Thanks for the opportunity. Mr. Amitabh Kant, the Director for South Asia Division of GIZ, His Excellency, the Ambassador, the Deputy Ambassador from the Federal Embassy of Germany, the Secretary General of the ITF, the Director General of the Federal Ministry of Environment in Germany, and other dignitaries, Mr. Saha himself, other dignitaries who are on this event. First, I must compliment the NITI Aayog, all the partners working on this, to have thought of this NDC-TIA. To my mind, this is a very opportune time for India to start thinking of decarbonizing its transport. primarily because as grow, the demand for transportation systems goes up, and countries have followed different pathways as the transport demand goes up. Some countries have adopted a high carbon pathway, others have adopted a low carbon pathway. Typically, those who are rich in oil resources have tended to adopt a high carbon pathway. India, like many countries in Asia and European countries, have tended to adopt a lower carbon pathway. I think this is the time where India must really cast its pathway for the future in a nice and comprehensive manner, which looks at low carbon transport. That is a very important moment for India to start strategizing what its future transportation systems will look like. Both Mr. Amitabh and Mr. Saha have spoken about the urbanization challenge in India, the huge challenge that mobility particularly will face in India. That is an even more important reason for us to think of how our transport systems will look like going forward. One important thing to keep in mind is that when you look about transport systems of the future, and particularly if you have to look at low carbon transport systems in the future, technical solutions that pave the way. There are solutions also that measures that have to get integrated in developed low carbon pathways. There are reports in the world really talking about how technological solutions on their own really can't go beyond a certain point unless management solutions also come in. And to my mind, this is where electric mobility is a very important factor. I'm really happy that on this project we are focusing on electric mobility. For electric mobility to really succeed, we have to think of how demand for transportation can align with the capabilities of electric mobility. That's going to be an important factor as we go about. What will also be important to look at is how the demand for electricity for the transport sector can be met by the electricity sector, what kind of impact it has on the grid, what kind of charging will be needed. I think these are issues that will become very important, and to what extent that electricity can come from cleaner sources. Another important factor that comes in all of this is what kind of unique situation is India's transport system in? You know, in India, for example, lengths are low. The frequency with which we travel is low. That's why the kind of electrification and the kind of charging infrastructure that we need, the ways in which we can re-energize our batteries, is not necessarily the same as what would happen next. One of the earlier speakers said, do we really need a car which can travel 500 kilometers with one charge? It's probably not needed in India. So what is unique to India is the kind of strategy we need to think about and develop as we go along on this path. I'm really excited that WRI, as a part of this consortium, would be participating in the project. We are very excited about it. I look forward to being part of this team. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Agarwal. To talk more about the NDC-TIA project, I would now like to hand over this technical session to Dr. Mitra. We have worked with him for the last 2-3 months, and I must say he has been very supportive and has helped us in finalizing the joint action plan. Dr. Mitra, I would now like to request you to talk more about the project.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Am I audible?
Yes, absolutely. Loud and clear.
So I hope my screen is also shared now. Good evening, everybody. Honorable speakers, distinguished guests. Hello from GIZ India. And I would like to take you through an overview of the Indian component of the NDC-TIA project. I would speak a bit about the project. I will focus a little more on the Indian component, and also I will speak about upcoming 12 months, the activities which will be done led by GIZ India. So, of course, my previous speakers already spoke in details about the importance and the context globally, and particularly in India. If you could see in the chart in the right side, in the yellow color, this is basically China, India, and Vietnam. And you see already the substantial amount of greenhouse gases are emitting only from those 3 countries. And exactly that is the reason why this particular project, NDC-TIA, is focusing on these 3 countries. So this project is a joint program of 7 organizations, and this is supported by the International Climate Initiative of the German Environmental Ministry, BMU. So the overall objective is to holistic approach for decarbonizing the transport sector in Asian countries. And it will contribute also to the NDCs, also in the Paris Agreement. And it has also a 4th component, we are coming to that afterwards, which is connecting to the UNFCCC processes. Now, if you see here, we are talking in Indian component mostly. However, the project is spread across practically a large portion of our Earth. You see from the west side, if I come slowly towards the east side, starting from the United States, then the Europe, in Germany, in France, in Holland, now in India, in China, and Vietnam. So our partners and our implementing ministries are spread across the globe practically. So the overall objective that the Asian countries on the long term could be multi-stakeholder and integrated strategies to decarbonize transport. And particularly, you see that the outputs in India, we have 2 particular outputs. So one is this national stakeholder platform for decarbonizing transport. And in the second one is on the electric mobility deployment and charging infrastructure of that. So this is a bit unique project because mostly that 7 renowned international organizations are working together in a close partnerships. And it has also a regional agenda beyond only India or beyond only India, China, and Vietnam. It's also contributing to the Asian countries and to that matter also the beyond Asia as well. And now I will speak very quickly about the Indian component. In Indian component, we have a consortium of 6 partners: WRI, GIZ, ITF, ICCT, Agora, and REN21. Our implementing partner in the government of India is NITI Aayog, and we have just started the project. And this, we from the GIZ India are coordinating about Indian component. We have 2 expected outputs. First output is talking about creating a stakeholder platform, which will have the capacity to formulate pathways on decarbonizing transport. On the second output, this is about the policy and procurement frameworks for electric mobility, electric vehicles, and charging infrastructure, and that should be improved. With that, I would like to take you on the output 1, a stakeholder platform, and it has 4 subcomponents. First component is addressing this supporting national multi-stakeholder dialogue. And then the second component is about the advanced modeling capacity in India. Third is on the technical support to the stakeholder platform. And 4th is about outreach and upskilling activities. In that, so if I go a little more deep in this, on the national stakeholder dialogue, this will be facilitating international peer learning from other countries and best practice exchange. And this part will be led by ITF and our other consortium partners, Agora, WRI, REN21, and GIZ will be supporting ITF. The second is the initiate a cross-agency platform, including public stakeholders, the private sector, and the civil society. This will be led by WRI, and GIZ India will be supporting them. Then the next subcomponent is about advanced modeling capacity in India. This is led by ITF, and it has 2 sub-branches. One is the transport and CO2 projections related, another is to improve the capacities of data collection and processing, as well as the capacities for the modeling. And both activities will be led by ITF, and ICCT and REN21 will support them. Then is the technical support to the stakeholder platform, and it will be led by ICCT, and WRI, ITF, and GIZ will support them. There is another subcomponent of this technical support to the stakeholder platform in the form of exchanging with other donors contributing to technical analysis. And there the GIZ India will lead this component, where WRI, ICCT, and ITF will support. And we have the last subcomponent of the output one, and which is the outreach and upscaling. And there are three subcomponents. There will be an outreach strategy led by WRI. There will be also stakeholders contribute to global and Asian best practice exchange. It will be led by ITF. And there will be a dialogue with international finance institutions on financing climate actions. This will be led by GIZ India. So as you see here, that all of our partners will be actually contributing to practically all subcomponents. Now I come to the next output, which is focusing on electric mobility. So the title is in India, the policy and procurement frameworks for EVs and charging infrastructure has been improved. Here we have four subcomponents. The first subcomponent is focusing on the activities in areas of e-mobility. So the definition of focus, that means what is the gap, etc., will be formulated. Second work package will focus on electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Third work component will focus on the electric vehicle supply and demand side policies. And the fourth one is addressing the cost benefit analysis and tools related to cost benefit analysis. So if I go, because we are a little late in terms of time, so I'm going through a bit quickly, purposefully. We will, for the 2.1, which is defined focus of activities in the area of e-mobility, we will perform a status quo analysis on different segments in India, like two-wheelers, cars, trucks, buses, etc. And also we will try to find the gaps and derive relevant use cases for proposed activities within this project, because this project is for 4 years and we are just starting. So this activity will kind of will be the navigator for our upcoming 4 years. Now I come to the electric vehicle charging infrastructure subsection of it. This will be mostly on support the development of policies and technical standards to promote charging infrastructure uptake. This activity will be led by GIZ India, and ICCT will support this activity. Then the next is electric vehicle supply and demand side policies. Here, the analysis on supply and demand will take place, and WRI will lead this, and ICCT will support that. Then we come to the last part of the work package 2, which is the cost benefit analysis tools, and it has 3 subcomponents. So all these 3 subcomponents of cost benefit tools related to the EV or electric mobility will be led by WRI, and in some activities ICCT and GIZ will support them. So extensive work will be done on the cost benefit analysis under this. Then there is a work package which is not really or directly under Indian component. This is the 4th cross-cutting component, and this is connected to all the 3 country components, India, China, and Vietnam. And this is about the dissemination knowledge products and newsletters. So we have also 3 subcomponents, output 1, 2, and 3 in that. Because of time constraint, I will not go in details about that. The purpose is to inform you that we are not working completely isolatedly in India. Our work output will be also connected to the global outreach of this NDC-TIA project. Now we come to a bit of project management and coordination. This is the steering structure of the project at the national level. I beg your pardon, on the regional level, at the project headquarter level. You see that the sub-branches are Chinese, Indian, and Vietnamese. And there's a 4th component on the international output also. And that is reporting to the overall coordination, which is GIZ in Germany. And the steering committee is formed, and all consortium partners, also the International Climate Initiative Secretariat and BMU are there as guests. So all of the consortium partners are directly involved here. So for the Indian component, we have formed India Working Group, and all our consortium partners are there, except SLOCAT. SLOCAT does not have active role in Indian component, although they have very much active role in the other components. On the coordination and management issues in the India component, we have formed one working group, and members from the partner organizations I mentioned already are already formed there. GIZ representative from India is the coordinator of the working group, and this working group is responsible for actual operational day-to-day work. And the representative of the working group reports to the steering committee and the partnership coordinator, and which is the GIZ headquarters. Now, this working group is communicating and actively working with the implementing partner, which is NITI Aayog. And NITI Aayog forms the role of implementing partner for the India component of this project. And so the working group representative actually updating and coordinating issues, meetings with NITI Aayog. Already we have started extensive meetings happen, as my previous speakers already said. More than 7 meetings happened in a very short time. And then the annual planning meeting and other related to management and coordination will be taken care by the implementing partner, NITI Aayog, jointly with the working group. So let me project a picture of the working group members. You see Mr. Amit Bhatt of WRI, you see Dr. Anup from ICCT, you see Mr. Pier Paolo from ITF, you see Mr. Christian Hochfeld from Agora, and Ms. Hannah Murdoch from REN 21. So that constitutes our working group. Now I come to the last portion where I am focusing a bit more in details on Indian component, which is led by GIZ India. After my speech is over, my other partners from WRI, ICCT, all our partners will speak about their respective tasks. So I'm starting with the tasks which are led by GIZ India. So under work package 1.4, which is outreach and upscaling of the output 1, we are talking about development 1 digital library. The purpose is the single window platform. People at large, and this is not restrictive, it's open to all, will be able to access important documents, also research papers, also important government policies. So it will create a very important, I think, base in India for electric mobility related library. On the output 2, on the focus of activities or performance status quo analysis, as I have already described before, we have started actually working on finding information about the gap and trying to find macro level recommendations, looking forward to have a navigation for us or actually go ahead for the four years to come. Then comes the electric vehicle charging infrastructure component, which GIZ is leading here in India, and ICCT is supporting us. We have planned for 3 actions now. We are talking about upcoming 12 months only now. We are not talking about the whole 4 years. So, and I'll take you through that. The first is the global review of charging infrastructure and the integration with the distribution grid. Here we are talking about electricity, power distribution grid. So we will take care about the technology and standards, policies and regulations on the charging, on the planning and operation of the grid, including smart charging, vehicle to grid, integration of electric mobility with the renewable energy. And next, we will have a much detailed initiative on technical simulation-based analysis on smart charging strategies, coordination and integration with the distribution grid. Here, the goal is the investigation on smart charging strategies and their impact on daily load profiles through the simulation. And we will also recommend on the ICT infrastructure requirements. It is a long project. We are estimating almost a total duration of the 2 years or so. We are just starting now. And in the very last, we will also start a state-specific policy and regulatory analysis. Here, the goal is to assess and to be able to provide recommendations for enabling Indian states to feed into Indian electric mobility ambition. But this project will be from the power sector perspective. It will be not from the vehicle point of view, but a power supply point of view. So we are also going to start this very soon. So with this, I would like to thank my team. You can see my team where we are working very closely from the GIZ part. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mitra, for giving us an overview of the NDC-TIA India component. Moving on, we would now work towards on the technical presentation. I would like to introduce Mr. Amit Bhatt from World Resources Institute, India, WRI India. Mr. Bhatt.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and good evening, everyone. As Dr. Mitra said, about the details of the entire program as well as some of the activities which GIZ is doing. Let me quickly also tell about some of the activities that WRI is going to plan as part of this project. And this will be only the first year of activities. So the first activity that will be involved in is to create a multi-stakeholder platform. Basically, the idea is that a multi-stakeholder platform with representation from public agencies, private agency, academia, civil society, and even businesses to look at how can we move forward towards the whole objective of decarbonization of transport. And the representation will also include from diverse stakeholder base, be it energy security, climate change, environment, finance, manufacturing, so on and so forth. This multi-stakeholder platform will also do 2 convenings a year in the first year, and idea is that this broader representation support from NITI Aayog will help drive the project in a nice way forward. So that's the first activity that we'll be leading from our side. The second activity that we'll be involved in, and again, as kind of leading the activity, would be to develop an outreach strategy for India. And I think basically the idea is that as we move towards decarbonization of transport, how can you, one, bring multiple stakeholders together, but also develop a comprehensive outreach strategy which addresses the needs of national level players, be it NITI Aayog or even Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Ministry of Housing, DHI, and so on, but also to bring some of the state perspective into the conversation and then move the agenda forward. So as part of this, we'll be identifying stakeholders who will be involved in it, and also developing some specific communication action to the objectives of the corresponding stakeholder that will be developed as part of this. So that's the activity number 2. And activity number 3, which is more on the technical side of it, is kind of looking at specifically on the electric mobility side and developing cost benefit analysis tool. And this will also include some use cases and associated business models of EVs, service delivery, charging infrastructure, so on and so forth, but also kind of looking at what kind of data is required from various stakeholders base. How can we collect, collate, compile that data, and use that data to create analysis? And these analyses are not in an abstract world, but these analyses are based on real-time, real-world scenarios, so that we can help move the conversation on the EV forward. Yeah, so that's where I'll end in a short, crisp manner. But and we are very excited to be part of this project.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bhatt. I would now like to introduce Mr. Pier Paolo Cazzola. He is from the International Transport Forum, and he would be making a presentation. Mr. Pier Paolo.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Can you see slides as well? So hi everyone. I'll try to be brief. I am going to talk about what's going to be the role of the ITF in the NDC Transport Initiative for Asia, the India component. I'll talk quickly about how this is framed in a broader context of the ITF Decarbonizing Transport Initiative from our perspective, and how it integrates with the Decarbonizing Transport Emerging Economies work, which was already mentioned earlier by Mr. Kant. So first, what is the ITF Decarbonizing Transport Initiative? So this is a framework of work, of activities that has been set up back in basically early 2016, right after the Paris Agreement, by the ITF Secretary General. It's enabled by three main pillars: the extensive modeling framework of the ITF, which feeds into the publication of the Transport Outlook. And then a group of partners that were mobilized since the beginning of the initiative that include the different, not only governments, the member governments of the ITF, but also NGOs, intergovernmental organizations, multilateral development banks, and research institutes. So these help us ensuring that we have access to the right information, to pertinent information. And then the third pillar are essentially donors that include all our members of the corporate partnership board, so the private sector, and institutes or institutions that include the European Commission, the World Bank, and ministries, as well as foundations. The main streams of work in the DP, in the Decarbonizing Transport Initiative, include tracking progress. We've been, for example, releasing analysis on what is the status of NDCs and how far can those take us towards towards the Paris Agreement goals. Sectoral reports on specific subsector of the transportation. So, for example, urban passengers, road freight, maritime, or aviation. We have focal studies on specific topics. One of the ones that is forthcoming, for example, is a study on technical regulations and standards for low and zero emission heavy duty vehicles. And then we have a set of work on the national pathways, which is where the India component of the NDC-TIA is hosted for us. And finally, we are involved in the UNFCCC activities as appointed as a transport lead for the Marrakesh Global Climate Action Agenda, and also organize the ITF Summit. And so we have a number of activities that foster the debate on transport decarbonization globally. As I mentioned, the NDC Transport Initiative for Asia for ITF is framed in this part of the national pathways. So here there's a list of key projects. They span some of those that we have already started focus on Latin America and Europe, others that still have to start of a broader set of outreach. The NDC-TIA Asia for us is as this was already mentioned by several people, is about promoting a comprehensive approach on decarbonizing transport, bringing together different stakeholders. We are involved, this was already mentioned, we have a number of partners which are also listed at the bottom. The unique case for us, which was touched upon by Mr. Kant, is the fact that this links with the Decarbonizing Transport in Emerging Economies, which is a parallel initiative that we're bringing forward, the parallel project. The outcomes of these two projects are essentially helping India work on long-term multi-stakeholder integrated strategy for transport decarbonization, and basically supplementing what we will achieve with the DTE, which is the handover of tools to the Indian governments that will help define effective measure and well-defined pathways to actually achieve CO2 emission reductions in transport. Here you have a timeline that indicates basically what we expect to do. In bold, you have the part of the timeline that is related with NDC-TIA. So we are now at the kickoff stage. We also kicked off the DTE in June. This was also mentioned. What we see coming next is the facilitation of international peer learning the review of existing transport models that will work in parallel with what we're going to do on DTE with the development of an assessment tool that we will deliver to NITI Aayog. The idea here is really to bring in the research and academic institution into the development of the tool and ensuring that there's a continuous and lasting heritage of capacity once the project is over, left in India, so that things can continue without the project. A key aspect of this is the capacity building and enhancement of the capacity of the Indian government and also other stakeholders to basically work, pulling together different data and ensuring that they can feed modeling tools that can inform policy decisions. The following steps are more related with outreach activities that were already mentioned briefly by Indradeep from GIZ. So I don't think, I mean, this will be coming at a later stage after these initial steps, which will build the actual tools in the project. Final point, we also foresee the development of technical reports and policy updates to be delivered to stakeholders. So some of the lessons we learn through this process will end up informing specific targeted reports on specific topics, which we will decide together with the Indian government and the consortium partners. Here you have people involved in the project, in the specific project in India. So that's myself, my colleague Vatsalya Sohu, and our head of division, Yari Kapila at ITF. I also need to mention one more person, who is Elizabeth Windish, who is coordinating the work of all the DTE and a lot of the work done in the framework of the Decarbonizing Transport Initiative. So she's been instrumental for setting up this project, and I inherited in a way from her over the course of this year. So thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. I would like to request the next speaker, Dr. Anup Bandivadkar from ICCT.
Hello, everybody. Kick off NDC-TIA India. I would go quickly over who and how we are hoping to contribute in this project that has been a long time in the making. For those of you who don't know about the International Council on Clean Transportation, we are a small not-for-profit research organization with offices around the world. We focus mainly on reducing air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions from all modes of transport. I direct our passenger vehicle program globally, but I have colleagues who work specifically duty vehicles and marine and aviation, along with the fuels that go in those. And let me put in perspective how we see climate emissions and where we stand in India before I quickly touch upon our work. Really explaining a lot of detail, really you see from a very high baseline of global transport emissions, the goal for a climate with a 1.5 degree type of a scenario will require us to have global transport emissions in the range of 2.6 gigatons in 2050. So for perspective, India's current transport emissions are about half a gigatons in year 2019. By 2050, as per the current trajectory, they are supposed to grow to 5 gigatons. So clearly, if the global transportation emissions have 2.6 gigatons, India's transport to accordingly. And of course, there are certainly that will go into reducing these emissions. So while there will be growth happening across different sectors due to expansion of economy and economic activity, there will be opportunities in terms of reducing emissions through zero emission vehicles and efficiency across the board. So that includes light duty, marine, and aviation, as well as fuels that go with it. But as we heard before, technological solutions are not going to get us towards the 1.5 degrees centigrade goal, and that's going to require that requires changes in behavior and the way our transport systems are organized if we on a 1.5 degree of a trajectory for transport sector. So let me just quickly touch upon the activities that we will participating in, and Indradeep all we are also supporting activities. But let me just focus on where we are going to spend our time, and especially in the first year, but some of will come along in the following years of the first of these, which will start as we are kicking off this project, is a meta study of India's transport greenhouse gas emissions analyses, and that will complement the work that ITF is doing. But really, we've already compiled information on several different models and how then they will, what they inform us in both their assumptions but policy suggestions. The second part here is that all our project partners we are committing to undertake one relatively short duration study
Dr. Anup, are you there?
We seem to have lost Dr. Anup's connection. But moving on, I would now like to introduce Mr. Christian Horsfield from Agora.
Thank you very much. But I think Anup now is back on the call, so I think I would give him the floor once again to finish his presentation first. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Christian. It seemed like, yeah, I lost you for about 30 seconds, but nevertheless, let me just bring it to a conclusion that while we have several different activities here listed, in the first year, we'll focus really on supporting GIZ in the overall market assessment and setting the trajectory for future. And in terms of a technical study, we'll take a deeper dive. As we heard, FAME2 scheme has given us more than 5,500 buses that will be deployed across India, and we'll do a much deeper dive along in at least a few different cities and how well they're working and what lessons we can draw so that we can scale from the initial 5,000 electric buses to hopefully 50,000 in the coming years. In the out years of the project, we'll focus on how the current incentive programs could be restructured and certainly how last mile as well as urban delivery of fleets can be improved in the coming year. So let me stop there and we'll move forward with Christian.
Thank you very much, Anup, and good evening to everybody in India. It's my great pleasure and honor to join you at this kickoff event of the NDC Transport Initiative Asia. And yeah, my name is Christian Hofeld. I'm the Executive Director of Agora. For those who don't know this institution so well, because it's also rather small institution compared to the other project partners, we are a Berlin-based think tank, which is philanthropic initiative by the Stiftung Mercator, the biggest climate foundation in Germany. And our aim is to support our government with the development of proposals for strategies and policy packages to decarbonize transport in Germany. And this is what we do in our all-day work. And let me say it very clearly that even in Germany, we really have to raise the ambition to reach the climate goals, especially for the transport sector, because currently we are still struggling to meet our goals, although we only approved a new climate program, especially also for the transport sector by the end of last year. But this is not ready for meeting our existing climate goals until 2030 here in Germany. And we, as some of you may know, still or already have another discussion ongoing within the discussion on the European Green Deal to make this continent the first continent to be climate neutral by 2050, which would rather mean that we would have to raise the ambition over our existing goals. So that clearly shows that even in Europe, especially also in Germany, there is still a lot of things to do to reach our midterm targets in decarbonizing transport, but especially the long-term target to be climate neutral in the transport sector by the mid of the century. And the reason also why we are so happy to join this, because in our mind, the raising the ambition and meeting the climate goals can only be achieved jointly. So international cooperation is one of the key areas to reaching the climate goals, because the mutual learning will help us to align strategies and to come up with comprehensive policy packages to decarbonize the transport sector, because we can learn from each other what are the packages, what are the policy measures and instruments which worked well in the area, but also which failed. And I think this is important once you set up new policy packages to come closer to our goals of decarbonizing transport. And it's also clear that even if we align our strategies, or especially if we align our strategies, we will be able to reduce the cost for decarbonizing transport, which is essential to be even more able to meet our climate goals. And I'm very happy that we will be able in our role in this project to bring in the German experiences with raising the ambition in transport for decarbonization, especially also in one of the focal areas of this project in the field of electric mobility. From our perspective, electric mobility is the backbone of the energy transition in transport, but only if it's also coupled and done in a comprehensive way, if the electricity sector will be decarbonized at the same time, because electrification only means climate protection for electric vehicles or for vehicles if we will be able to bring in more renewables to the grid and decarbonize the transport in this way. We have now the ambitious goal that we need at least 10 million electric vehicles in our market until 2030 here in Germany, which means that 1 of 4 cars in 2030 has to be electric. Otherwise, it's definitely not reachable, or we will not be able to reach our climate goals. And that doesn't need any single measure or a single instrument in place, but comprehensive packages of measures, subsidies for the vehicles, especially in the time when they are not cost competitive compared to conventional combustion engine cars. And we also need the support for the charging infrastructure, but also, and I think this is something we really have seriously to talk about, raising the costs of using fossil fuels in the transport sector. So we need push and pull instruments to bring electric vehicles to the market. And already, as this is mentioned, I don't want to repeat it, but I think it's clear that only with electrification we even would not meet our climate goals. So we need also the mobility transition, changing our transport system in a sustainable manner to reach the climate goals, because there is no really technical solution for the for a societal problem. In this sense, I'm very much looking forward to join the NDC-TIA initiative from the Agora perspective, to bring in the German experiences and really cooperate on eye level, because I'm sure that hopefully we can contribute something that India could learn from the German experiences. But I'm, on the other hand, also very sure that we will be able to learn something from you and from the Indian context and perspective, to also bring forward the decarbonization of the transport sector in Germany. In this sense, I think we are looking very much forward to reaching our hands and having hopefully the opportunity after the COVID crisis to meet in person, to both be able to raise the ambition and come closer to our goal, the climate neutral transport system in 2050. Thank you very much, and have a nice evening in Delhi and all the other places in India.
Thank you, Christian. So I would like to request our next speaker, REN 21, Ms. Rana Adib. We can't hear you. You need to unmute. Ms. Adib, we are not able to hear you. Yeah, now we can hear you. I think probably some loose connection there, because interruption happened.
Confirm that you see the screen, please.
Yeah, we can see the screen, but cannot hear you well.
Okay, can you hear me better like this? Okay, I'll start, and I hope that you can hear me. Welcome everybody, and congratulations to this launch. We are very excited to be part of this group of players, and especially also to be another type of player, I think, because we see a great opportunity actually here to bridge two sectors that are fundamental in reaching a decarbonized world. Very quickly, REN 21 is the Renewable Energy Policy Network for the 21st century. And the name already tells it. We are not a transport player, we are a renewable energy player. And Christian, thanks a lot for introducing the renewable energy topic like this. Yes, we do depend on each other, the transport and the energy folks, in reaching the decarbonization targets. From REN 21 side, we're a community of players, of governments, industry, NGOs, and science and academia working together to advance renewable energy. And I just added this slide. This is This is global data, actually, and we do see that transport, when we're looking at, obviously at CO2, we saw it is very much responsible for CO2 emissions together with energy, but also for the energy consumption. And what you see on that slide is that globally, the transport sector is the sector which is lacking much behind when we're looking at the share of renewable energy. When you're looking at the power sector, this is really where we see many successes, and this is clearly where the electrification, also from the renewable side, makes a lot of sense, and why Rentunon is engaged in this process. We clearly see that it is a much broader approach, and renewable energy is only one piece, but it is fundamental to link planning, policy design, regulation, etc. together. And just as one example, there is only one country that has electric mobility targets where the support to the countries are directly linked to subscribing a renewable energy power purchase agreement. So there is also, especially in COVID, post-COVID economic recovery times, a great opportunity to link those two sectors by having a more integrated planning. So Rentunon's role in this program will obviously being as a global network, linking together the global, the regional, and the national, linking the renewable and the transport sector. And clearly, as we are a community of players, multi-stakeholder space, a collaborative national peer learning and knowledge exchange. So this report, this process is very much linked to our knowledge reports, to our academies, conferences, debates. We will, in this program, do a specific knowledge product, which is more about creating the debate and bridging the transport and the renewable energy sectors, thinking, understanding, advancing this, by producing a report on the role of renewable energy in transport and decarbonizing transport. Here, it's about capturing the current thinking about the future, to also identify opportunities how to work together, but also barriers, and supporting the outer telecommunication part. Specifically on the India part, we will support, because Rentunon does have a very long data collection and process history. Support the data collection and work together with partners on renewable energy. We will also organize a multi-stakeholder workshop together with partners, and very clearly the renewable energy organizing the transport sector, also because we have a quite strong partners and members in Rentunon on the energy side in India too, who will obviously bring to the process. So where India is a member in Rentunon, Terry, we're working with them, and also CEW. And we're very excited to work with all of you to advance this process. And I'm representing here my colleague Hannah Murdoch, who is actually who will be your counterpart. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rana, for your speech, and thanks all the speakers. Now I would like to invite Ms. Shweta Kalia for the closing remarks.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mitra. Hi, good evening, everyone. I, on behalf of GIZ and the entire NDC-TIA working group, extend a very hearty thanks to all of the speakers and participants for gracing your knowledge today on the decarbonizing transport in India. Foremostly, our sincere thanks to Mr. Amitabh Kant, CEO NITI Aayog, for enlightening us with the issues prevalent in the transport sector, such as the urgent need to curb air pollution amid the rapid urbanization in the fast-growing economy, key initiatives that the Government of India has been taking on sustainable transport, with major focus on electric and shared mobility, and the vision that India holds to actively contribute to the national as well as global climate action targets. We'd like to express gratitude to Mr. Stefan Grabier, Deputy Ambassador, German Embassy, New Delhi, who highlighted the importance of climate actions against the global warming. Our sincere thanks to Dr. Carsten Zark, Director General of the International and European Policy, as well as the Climate Policy of the BMU, for giving a broad perspective on the issues of climate change and how Asia's emerging economies need to widely adopt cleaner ways of transportation. Many thanks to Ms. Corina Kwizel, Director South Asia Division, GIZ, for opening the session with key insights about the NDC-TIA program. Our sincere thanks to Dr. Young Tae Kim, Director General, International Transport Forum, and our heartfelt thanks to Dr. O.P. Agarwal, CEO WRI India. I must mention a deep sense of appreciation for Niti Aayog, wherein Mr. S.K. Saha, Head of Transport, along with the team members, Mr. Siddharth Sinha and Mr. Madhav Sharma, have extended their full support in making this event a success. We are honored to have government ministries, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Department of Heavy Industries, and others who marked their presence virtually today and shared interesting insights with us. Our sincere thanks to Mr. Farhad Vanya, Portfolio Management Advisor from GIZ India, for extending his full support and guidance throughout the planning of the event. Many thanks to Mrs. Pallavi Sinha and the Niti Aayog for giving an excellent PR and the communication support. At last, I would like to thank every participant who marked their presence and enriched the event with interesting insights. As part of the organizing team of the event, I wish to express my sincere gratitude to all the consortium partners of the India component. I sincerely thank Dr. Mitra, Country Coordinator of the NDC-TIA, for his continued support and guidance and active engagement throughout the planning. And a big thanks to all the team members of the NDC-TIA program. As a closing remark, I would like to mention that this is just the starting of the project. We are very keen and looking forward to closely work with Niti Aayog and diverse set of stakeholders, both public and private, and make this project a huge success. Thank you, everyone, once again. Have a very good evening.
Thank you so much, Shweta. And with that, we would close the call, and thank you all for joining in.
Thank you.
Thank you.